When we set boundaries for our children, we are telling them that we care about them. We're setting them up in a position so that as they become adults, they can be successful, they can have self control, that they can set boundaries for their own selves. I tell my children often that I want you to learn how to control yourself so that I don't have to control you. Part of that is me setting boundaries and me providing guidance as to what the expectation is regarding those boundaries. And if those boundaries are crossed, then these are the disciplines that are going to occur. The Bible even says that a person who has no rule over his own spirit is like a city without walls. We don't want our children to be like that, because a city without walls tells me that there's a lot of confusion, that there's no guidance, there's no direction, that everyone is going wherever they want to go, doing whatever they want to do. It's kind of like if you're at a traffic light, and if the traffic light doesn't work, and no one understands the boundary or what exactly it is they're supposed to do, and everyone goes, then an accident is going to happen. The same thing with our children. If we don't provide them with boundaries, guidance, direction on the things that they should and shouldn't do, when they become adults, they'll just do it all. They won't have any boundaries for themselves. They won't have any self-control for themselves. It's important that we also have boundaries for ourselves, so that when we're expressing to our children about the boundaries that we're implementing for them, that they understand, well, mom and dad, they have boundaries for themselves as well. There's certain things that they just won't do because that's just not the right thing to do for them. I will tell you, I've had to adjust my boundaries when it comes to parenting, depending on the child that I'm dealing with. One child I may allow to do certain things because they're able to handle it based on their level of maturity, whereas another child I may not be able to allow to do that. And I think we learn that as we communicate with our children, as we have relationship with our children, as we understand our children. I'm a big advocate for studying my kids. I'll ask them questions. I'll watch their body language. I'll listen to their responses. I pay attention when they are off to themselves. I believe that is how we get to know, especially when our children become teenagers, because when they become teenagers, many times they'll isolate themselves. They'll be in their cell phones. They'll be on social media. They'll be hanging out with friends. And even in those times, you have to study patterns. You have to study behaviors. You have to study even their friends, how they react when they're with their friends, so that you know what boundaries to set in place, so that you can be sure that they're safe, that they're making good choices. One thing that I always tell my kids is that I don't want you to become someone else's problem. When you become an adult, I don't want your wife or your husband calling me and saying, I got to raise your child because you didn't, or I have to do this with your child because you didn't. I don't ever want that call. I want a call that says, thank you for what you've done. Thank you for the guidance and direction you've given them, even when they're in school. I don't want a phone call from a teacher saying to me, your child has no self-control. Your child doesn't see boundaries. They go against every rule that I provide them. That to me tells me that I'm not doing my job as a parent. And I have to go back to the drawing board, readjust, and figure out what it is that I can do in order to help my child to be successful, so that they are not only an asset to themselves, but an asset to society. So as you're talking to your child today, think about the boundaries that work for your home. Think about the boundaries that work for each child, because each child is an individual, and implement that. Know that you are not controlling the child by doing that. You're teaching them to control themselves. Have a great day.